All right, good morning, everyone. Yesterday, we introduced cascading style sheets, right? Cascading style sheets, CSS. All phones should be on silent. And CSS is the language used to do what? Style, HTML, element, and web page. And we talked about the roots of CSS. That CSS has selector and what? Declaration and declaration block. Let me say that declaration blocks. What? Declarations. And then every declaration must end with what? And the property name and the value is separated with what? The column. Now, this is your element name. Talk about we said the selectors can be categorized into five, right? Said one is what? The simple selector. And we remember that selector, right? And we said that we focus on the simple selectors first. And we said simple selectors select the element based on what? Name, ID, and class. Now, based on the name, what is simply mean by selecting by name is just the name of the what? Element. Just type the name of the element, open your quotes or your blog, and make a declaration. Then whichever element that's answering that name, you obey the word declaration. All what I said, right? That is how to identify by name. So once there's a name, once there's an element with a name that has the name of the selector, that element, all the elements must obey the word declaration. And I said, if you want to target a particular element, a particular what? Element, you have to use what? ID. This one selects elements by what? Name. So just type the name of the element, make your declarations, and all the elements bearing that name will do what? Will be the declaration. And I give an example, just we are walking into this class, and I said, Ifan, stand up. So even if you have 20 Ifan, the name of Ifan, all the Ifan should be what? Stand up. Because their name is what? Ifan. That is how it works today. Any element you mention here, be it the anchor, be it your paragraph, be it your div, be it your body, or any other element you mention. Once you make a declaration, all the elements there in that name must do what? Okay. Then we talked about what? ID. ID. Now, once you make a declaration and you specify an ID here, which means you must identify the elements that will do what? Obey the declaration. You understand that? Once you want to target a particular element, which means you must give that particular element an ID. Just like in your school, even though you have your names, you still have your what? Reg number. Your reg number is your what? ID. Look, Two persons cannot have the same reg number, but you can be 20 in class and you have the same name. So once you mention the name, Emmanuel stand up or Emmanuel go out, all the Emmanuel will do what? But once you say Mr. 10001 stand up, it's just one person. You're referring that person to what? The ID. So the only way to convert it to an ID is just by putting what? Hash in front of it. Once you put hash, it's no longer a name selector, it's not an ID selector. Then in that case now, you have to specify you have to give an ID, tell him this ID, you go to the selector and give the selector an ID name. You understand this part, right? So since I have my A here, I don't have A here, if I want to target this paragraph, which means my ID name here will be what? A. So once I do this, every declaration inside here will affect this particular word, this particular element. Am I clear? Do you have any question on that? Do you have any question on this? If you don't understand what I just said, I want to explain this instead. I want to explain this here this morning. Raise up your hand if you don't understand. If you know you are finding it difficult to understand or you don't understand that one, let me see your hand. You all understood this, right? All right. Today, we will be identifying elements based on what? Class. We've done by name, where you just mention the name of the element using P, for example. We've done the ID, where you give the element an ID. An ID as what? An ID as what? You give the element an ID as what? Give your element an ID as what? You give your element an ID as what? As an attribute. The ID in the element is an attribute. So you give it the name, the ID as an what? Attribute. The attribute is called what? ID. So in your ID here, in your CSS, please how you identify by using the hashtag. Then the ID of the what? Element. The ID of the what? The ID of the element is intro. For example, that's right, intro as the ID. So once it goes there to the element and it finds what? Hashtag. Once it finds an ID known as intro, it's going to do what? That intro, the element that has the ID as an intro will obey the declarations in the CSS. So today we're talking about what? Class. Yesterday, when I was doing the example, class, what are some of the word class? Class. Most of us will be shouting, what do you mean? After we're not in the same class, what is class? I'm not in the same class with you. Why would you talk to me like that? I'm not in the same class. So what is class? Memory. Group. What is class? The word class. and we're in a class. Which class are you in? SS1. That is class. Which class are you in? SS3. So what is class? You are in a class, you know what is a class. Alright, let's define the word class. A set, class simply means class or category of what? Things. It will be not just things, it will still be human beings. Because at times human beings like a class, right? So a noun is the name of a person, animal, place, or what? Thing. So you can put both your human being, animal, places, or thing into what? Class. You classify them. You classify them. Good morning. Sorry. Nobody will assist you. We are having a class now. I don't know how I'm better can maybe. As I decide to like so it's a recovery session. How do you think that's a recovery session should do in the primary session? Yes. You don't have an yes, she's right. Well, what she meant by that is that if you don't have Android phone, do that. But if you don't have it should be in your primary session. I'm not telling you the right thing. That is what it is. You should do. Meet your principal. Meet your, not your teacher. Yes. Should give you direction. That I said. Primary schools. Why I teach primary school there, but this is secondary school. Anything that has to do with primary school. Said I'm not going to from before. Yeah. When I was doing training for the primary session, I was very good. Everything should be, anything has to be primary school is there, not here. This is primary session. No, that's not primary school. It's primary school because I said school. No problem. I said school. Alright, let's continue class. I said the class as a noun is a set or category of things having some property or attributes. Having some properties or some property or attributes. You know, in our lesson I said attributes are the properties of what? Opening tab. Attributes are the properties. Each particular attribute is a property of an element. I said that right? Just like in your CSS, the declarations are what? The properties. So because we want to differentiate them, in the HTML we call it what? Attributes. In CSS we call it what? We call it what? Declarations. They are all properties. So the property of an element of what are the properties of an element? Let's say simply talking about what? The attributes. So what are the properties of your declaration block? Let's simply talk about what? The declarations. So here I said a class is a set of what? It's a set. Set. When you do something in set. a set or category, like in the classes now, they're being categorized. You don't want another category, you categorize them. A set or category of things having some property or attribute in common. In what? Common. So which means for me and you to be in the same class, we should have something in what? In common. We are sharing the same teacher, we are in the same room, we have the same blackboard, we share the same everything in the same room in the class. So that is your class. Now let me speak it again. A class is a set or category of things. Category of things having some property or attribute in common and differentiated from others by kind. And what? Differentiated different from others by what? Kind. Which means by kind, for example, we can classify this class into boys and girls. Or we can classify this class based on male and female, right? Boys and girls. We can classify this class based on age group. The one with 2 years, from 9 to 10 years, go to JSS 1. From 11 to 14 years, go to JSS 2. You are not categorizing them based on the kind. So you can categorize based on kind or by what? Attributes or property, depending on your description or what you are doing. Alright. Having understood this, let's go back to CSS now. The class selector. Now back to CSS. The class what? Selector. So this is the name what? Selector. Name what? Selector. Selecting elements based on what? Name. So any element bearing this name must obey what? The declaration. This is the ID. Any element having the ID as a selector will obey what? The declaration. Now, class. The CSS class selector. The CSS class selector. The class selector select elements. The class selector selects HTML elements with a specific what? Class attributes. Class what? Attributes. So which means it's going to identify the element that's going to change based on what? Class. Based on what? Class attributes. Based on what? Class attributes. Now, don't mistake these two things. Our definition says it selects elements based on what? Name. Element what? Name. Not element attribute, not name attributes. This one selects by attributes, but this one selects by what? Name. The element's name. This one selects by what? The element's what? Attribute. Because why I'm saying this is that there's an attribute known as what? Name. There's an attribute known as what? Name. That's not what we're talking about. You'll have something like this. Even most of the times the name itself even works with the form field elements. So don't get confused when you see a name. But there's an attribute known as what? Name. Equals no. Here, remember our definition, so it selects based on the name of the word element, which is this one. Not this. Then they have an attribute known as what? ID. Which is now with what? Hash. So this one select by what? Attributes. Known as what? ID. Then we have another attribute known as what? Class. So this one we select based on what? Class. But this one select based on the element name. But this one select based on the element attribute known as what? ID. So this one select based on what? Attributes. Yeah, this one select as what? Element name. So when you see name as attribute, don't mistake it for this. We are talking about this in CSS. So you need to understand and have it clear. Alright, let's continue. So the class selector selects HTML element with a specific class attributes. HTML elements, there is an S, so it can select multiple elements. Because in a class, if you have other than class, one person has a class, at least it should be two and above, okay, in the same class. I cannot say I'm in my own class, no, you must be in the same class. If I'm standing alone, which is I'll identify with what? ID. But if you are identifying for a group, use what? Class. Good. Now, the class selector selects HTML elements with a specific class attribute. To select elements with a specific class attribute, write the period character followed by the class name. To select elements with a specific class. Now I have a class here. Should I still define? To select element with a specific class, we write to select elements with a specific class, comma, write a period character. You know what the character is called period? Which character is called period? Full stop. So, while this one uses the element name, this one uses the hash to convert it to what? ID. This one uses full stop. So in other words, if I'm using intro as my class, since I'm using intro, or JSS 1A or anything, since I'm using intro as ID, I can use full stop intro. So any element in the class equals to intro. Any element in the class intro. The do what? Obey the what? Declaration. Remember, someone said yesterday that he used ID, right? And used the same name, the same ID in multiple elements. And it worked for him, right? And I said something that you did it and it worked does not mean it's a standard. You understand? It's wrong. That you added, maybe you had like 4 elements and use the same ID, the same ID for the 4 elements, and it works for you, does not mean it's what? Standard. In the future, while you progress, you understand that it's what? Wrong. What you're supposed to do is put them in one particular word, class, then style them, and everybody in that class will do what? Obey. So by class, it's just by any element you want to obey that particular element, use what? Class, not what? ID. But if you're working on a particular element, even if you use class for one element, it will work. You know that, right? Because even in the classroom, one person can be in the classroom. But instead of using class, you can just use what? ID, since you can get just one person. But in a situation where you have multiple persons inside one class, use what? ID, when you want to identify one person. But if you want to identify some inside this class, maybe now let me illustrate to this class now. If I want some people to stand up, if I want some people to stand up, I'll put them in class. When I say first row by my left, stand up. First row by my left, stand up. You see that? I want to turn into a particular person. They are now in a class known as what? Left row. Front seat. First row. So they are not, even though we are here, they are now in this class. So if you want them to stand up, I'll put them what? In class. Class, stand up, class, stand up, class, stand up. All of them are in the same class. But if you want only this person to stand up, I'll just say ID 1001, stand up. You understand that, right? And only the person with ID will do what? Stand up. But this time they're not in the same class. So this one, the class will be what? Stand up. This one as an element, the class will be what? Stand up. This one, the class will be what? Stand up. And if you want to declare that as an SS, in CSS, I'll just say full stop, stand up. Then I put my open brackets, text column. Sorry, not text column, column. Column. Red. Text align. Center. Just different direction start to put stuff when you want to put in, when you want to do some particular element. I don't want all my P. Now this answers the question you asked me that time. Where you have 20 paragraphs. 20 what? Paragraphs. And you want some specific paragraph, maybe paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 5. To obey this. All you need is to come to paragraph 1. P. Class. Equals to what? Stand up. Close. Here, P. I do my P. I close. Right? Then here, VIV, not just P. I even use VIV. Class. Stand up. I close. What element do you have? Which other elements? H1. H1. Class. Stand up. You see that? So any text here will do what? Stand up. Any text here will do what? Stand up. Any text here will do what? Stand up. I still come here and say hash. Sit down. Text. Column. Which element will do here? No. Because there's no element to the ID what you see it down. So if I do this one, ID Very simple, it's as simple as this. So that you use ID here, and use ID here and here and here, and it works for all of them, it does not mean it's correct. You're not supposed to use ID. When you have in our place, okay, you're done. You're not supposed to use ID, but you can use class. You can use class for multiple. Remember the definition of ID. ID is used to select one particular word, element, and IDs are unique to each word, element, to each, E-A-C-H. IDs are unique to each word, element, where class can be used to group or categorize words more than one element. So even if you use ID and it works, you are disobeying the law. That was why I said, are we going to abide in sin for grace to abide? For grace to abide, right? And say God for all healed. That's what the Bible said. So you must do it the right way. This is the right thing to do. Exactly. That was why I was shouting at it yesterday. But once you understand the first one, there's no need. That's where I want to follow. The difference is that this one is what? This one just identifies the elements name. Then we use P. So this is just element what? Name and selector. Selecting elements bearing the name as this. And not name as an attribute. These will not identify this based on this. No. Rather, if you identify this based on what is. Am I clear? I said we have an attribute known as name. We will look at this. No. Class. You have the ID. How do you specify ID? Using hashtag. Then the name of the ID select. The name of the ID, the name of the selector. That which means if I use hashtag here, but you understand this one name, the name of the element. And I said this name is this, the name of the element, and not name as an attribute. Because how an attribute known as what? Name. No. This identifies what? This, not this. Name. This. So which means for you to style your element by name, this is the name. You must specify the name of the word, element. And I said CSS knows the name of all elements. Any element that you use, CSS knows what? The name. So you don't need to bother yourself. Just you knowing the name. Tell CSS, oh, I want to go to P, and all the P's in my HTML page should prepare what? This declaration. You understand that part? Good. That is this. Now we talk about what? ID. And we said CSS selects elements based on what? ID attributes. Now I'm talking about what? Attributes. This one is the element name. The other two is what? Attributes. Now I also said, remember we have a name as an attribute. This one is just an attribute. This is the name. So CSS does not identify by this. Right, it identified by what? Element what? Name. Not talk of what? For what? Which is what? For IDs, element IDs. And also this is element ID as an attribute. So once you use your ID attribute, equals sit down. Every element, not just every element, the element. So why can you understand? What are these QT excuses? From you, upon now I don't know when you are late, right? You are late. When you are late, you are seeing the class. They send you stand outside. Now listen. Anyway, there's no point standing outside. Come in. Come inside. Come inside. There's no point standing outside. Is that an excuse? What is your passport? What is the fine? Every 11 o'clock. That's it. This will be the last time I'll correlate lessons from you. Don't come to my class whenever you want. Because you're not taking me back every week. That's what we are seeing. I said, the hashtag selects your elements based on what ID attributes. And in our definition of ID, we said every element must have its own unique ID. And IDs are unique to each word element. In other words, two elements cannot have the same ID name. Two elements cannot have the same word ID name. Even though if you add more than one, the same ID name more than one word, two or three elements, even if it works, it's not the correct way to do that. Just like when I was talking about okay, that one is a different piece. The clemency of browsers. Well, no, it's not clemency. The clemency simply means when something is not correct or there is a mistake, it helps you correct it. But that one is different. But in this case now, every element should have what? A unique word, ID. So even if you add the same ID name to multiple elements and it works, it's wrong. It's what? Wrong. In our definition, we said IDs are unique to each word element. Now, if you want to add to multiple elements, you want to make one declaration or this declaration, and you want this declaration to affect more than one element, you use what? Class. You put them in what? Class. Is that clear? You asked me this yesterday, what if you have 20 paragraphs and you want only 10 to be blue, another 20, another 10 to be what? Red. What do you do? The first 10 you want to be blue, put them in one word, class. So that once you declare your red, all the 10 will be what? Red. You put that one in that class. So once you declare that one, all those ones will be what? Blue. So when you want to change the text of those classes, maybe let's say one of the classes now, the first 10, you change their colors. You know, if you don't have CSS, you need to start going to each of them one after the other, until 10 of them. And consume you time, right? Editing 10 elements. So all it does is come to the class, give an order, give make a declaration, and all the 10 will do what? Obey. Instead of me coming here saying, hey man, stand up. Amalecha, stand up. Good luck, stand up. You, stand up. Ndioma, stand up. You, stand up. Stand up. How many stand up? Even if I say stand up, I'm even tired. But I can just walk in and just say, class, stand up. And everybody will just stand up once. You can't even make it stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up up to 1 million times. You understand? So once I just say, class, I'm talking to what? Everybody in this class. We have other classes, but in this particular class, which is ICT class, right? ICT class stand up. I'm talking to all the elements in this class. Instead of me using ID to say you stand up, to take me time, except if I want a particular person only to stand up, I will not use what? ID. But if I use name, which means everybody bearing that name will do what? Stand up. These are three things, three different things. Identifying by name, or select, in this case, select by name, select by ID, or select by what? Class. Multiple elements can have the same what? Name. In the web page, you can have more than 20 keys or more than 50 DIVs, right? The same DIV is DIV, but you have 20 DIV. Am I clear? You can have 20 DIV. So if I want to identify all my DIV, I'll say, the one of the DIV stand up. All the DIVs do what? Stand up. That is by name. But by class, ICT class, stand up. Everybody in that class will do what? Stand up. But if I want an individual to stand up, I will use what? I will use ID. Not name now. ID. 110, stand up. 110, 110. That 110 will stand up. That is just how it works here. Is that clear? You see, alright? I don't know if I'm clear. You understand that? So these ones, you just put your attributes. Oh no, na class side. Just like this. We do what? Stand up. Class is an element. Sorry. Class is an what? An attribute. And the attribute value of class depends on what you name it here. So whatever thing you name your class, you got able to put here. Because that is the value. So here it's simply saying, if you know you are in stand-up class, your text should be what? Red. Or the children in class, stand-up, generally, actually red. Here it's saying, if you know your ID is 110, stand up. Or therefore, children has an ID is 110, stand there up. Or sitting down and replacing everything. Then, if I walk and say, if your name is Emeka, stand up. Anybody answering Emeka will do what? Stand up. So these are three ways of identification or selection. Either I select by ID, by name, or by what? Class. Is that clear? Any other question? This shouldn't be difficult. Yesterday we talked on it properly. Any confusion you should have, you should be less to do. Not to do again. Any question? Alright, let's look at our definitions. So to declare your class, you just use what? Dot. To declare ID, you just use what? Hash. So these are the two things that you use. Yeah, so this one is a standard. You must specify the elements name. It is DIV, DIV. If it is UL, it must be UL. The name of any element you want to do, you want to do it here. And all the elements answering this name will do what? Obey. There are these ones will not do what? Obey. Any question? No question. Now let me ask you, since you said no question. If my color here is green, how many things do I have? I have 1, 2, right? And my color here is green as P. And here I have a class. I have these two P's. What would be, no, this one is green color now. This is P, green. Class, color, red. And ID, color, blue. Now look at this P. ID is standard. Which color my text B. Note, this is P, and this is P. And I said all P should be what? Green. So this is P here. Okay? Now, this one stand up or sit down. So this is stand up, this is sit down. And I have P here green. I have stand up here what? Red. Which is this one, right? And I have sit down what? Blue. So what is going to happen to this one? Is this one going to obey this one? Or is it going to obey and this one obey this one? Or the two P's will obey this one? Which one will it obey?
The idea sits down, you still obey that idea. That's the color B, you obey the idea, sits down.
Yeah, by disobeying this one, right?
Yes, disobeying it. Yes. Then P, green, you obey that other
So the class where it is, right? Yeah, by disobeying this. So this one is like, just like a general stuff. But once you are put in a class, you must obey your class instruction. Yeah? Or you must, once a tuition is made to a particular class, you understand? Okay, let's say, for example, they say we are all human beings, right? And they say every human being must wear red. You can't do it. And when I come to this class, I say anybody in my class must wear blue. Yes, you're a human being, you're supposed to wear red, right? But I said in my class, you must wear what? Blue. So what should I do to obey? The class where you belong, even though you are a human being, you have to obey the last order, which is the class where you do what? You belong. Even if you are in this class, you are still in this class, and I make a decision and say 110, we are green. Even though everyone in this class is wearing blue, you as 110 will wear what? Blue. You understand? So it's like this one being the general, this one trying to be more specific, and this one trying to point directly to the person. You understand? So if I remove these ones, all of them will obey this one. If I put them in a class, they will disobey this one and obey my class. If I come to you directly using the ID, you obey this two and obey this. Except whereby there's a declaration here, you know, okay, like say, that is if you are stand up, background color equals to purple. Purple. That's what I wrote, right? Purple. Now, I can come here and say, since stand up is what? Which one is these two are in the same class? Now, this one is stand up. This one is stand up, right? And the background color is purple. So the background color of this one will be what? Purple. The background color of this one will be what? Purple. The background color of this one will be what? Purple. Even if this one, the ID, let me do this one with ID. Stand up as well. Stand up. Okay, sorry, ID sit down, right? ID sits down. Will the background color of this one be purple? No. But if I add class equals to stand up, this one will obey this one based on the color, but it will obey this one based on the background color. Because it belongs to this class, and I said everyone in this class must have what? Background color, purple. But I said, but you, those of you that the person answering sit down must have the text to be what? So while others will have their text red with purple background, this one will have its purple background with text what? Text what? Blue.
You have both B and zero. Or like you don't put class and you get B and B. Which school?
Yes, now you are defined based on the class. It's just like asking me, we have boy and girl, DID and paragraph. And I say, Those of you in this class should stand up. This only the boys to stand up. Both the boys and the girls, even though you're not getting the same name. As long as you're in the same class, irrespective of your gender or your name. Is it clear? Why this one targets the element name? This one targets what? Everybody that has black class. And this one targets what? An individual. Or simple logic. Or simple logic is not simple. Assuming, remember these ones are in the same class, these two are in the same class, H1, DIV, and paragraph, they're in the same what? Class. But I only want paragraph. Maybe I have two paragraphs in the same class. Okay, these two paragraphs are in the same class now, right? And they're in the same class. But I don't want, even though DIV is not in the same class, I don't want DIV to maybe obey this. I only want paragraph to obey this, even though they're in the same class. Even though we're in the same class, we're all in the same class. I only want these people to obey the command. I only want first rule to obey the command. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4 are in the same class, and they must obey this, right? But now, yes, we're in the same class, but I only want P, paragraph, to obey the declaration. You know I can just come in and put P dot stand. I'm on a CSS about easy. Yes, now look at it now. All the paragraph that their class, this is class formula. All the paragraph in stand-up class should obey this. Now, not everybody in the class. Not only the paragraphs in the class. You know, we said the class, everybody in the class will obey. Now, inside that class, I don't want everybody, I want only the name. I will ask the only name. Do you get that? We are all in the same class. But the people I want them to obey this declaration is just paragraph, or if it's just H1, just put H1 dot stand up. Automatically, this one should start with this, the other one will now obey. Because I now said it's only what? H1 inside this class. Only the H1 inside this class should do what? Obey the declaration.
That's not what we did in the declaration.
I didn't get it.
Why not use .p? And then that's not what
If you use .p, P is no longer an element now. It's not a class name. Like this. .p. It's a structure, it's a standard. This is how, if you say .p, remember I said once you put dot, it's now a class. Why not say stand-up.p? It will not work. It is p dot standard because once there is dot in front of this, it is no longer an element. It is now a class. Once there is hash in front, it's no longer an element. It's now a what? An ID. So paragraph being the element's name, I've already selected the element. Element name now is what? You can't have to model that. Don't worry, it's a gradual process. Let's understand the other one first. Let's look at this one and understand this one. Then we move to the other one. That's nice. So let's digest the first one. That one for the Hebrew like an how do you call that? Go for them. No, ID is ID now. ID is only one element. You understand? ID 110 is 110. What about that? So ID is by the name. But in a class, I only want the boys to stand up. It's just like saying dot JSS, right? The class name is what? JSS1. Because it's a dot, so it's a class. Dot, and then you have no class. So JSS1 is what? The class. What I mean by JSS1? When I say everybody in JSS1 stand up, what do I mean? Whether you're a boy or a girl. But when I come here and I say main dot JSS1, I'm talking to all the main in JSS1 class. Don't know if you understand. So if I put my P dot stand up, I'm talking to all the paragraphs with the class stand up.
So when you use P dot stand up, that's VIP and H1.
Will not obey again. Only these two now will not obey the stand up. This one will now disobey because I'm talking to P only with him. But when I remove P, I'm talking to everybody in the class. You understand? If I want the DIV to obey and P disobey, I'll put what? DIV dot P will not disobey, DIV will not obey. Even though they're in the same class. But I'm not talking to what? DIV only. Not stand up dots. There are ones that if I put stand up dot DIV, will it work? No. Because there is no element known as what? Stand up. This one is no longer a DIV, it's not a class what? Name. Look at it and think of it. Don't worry. I'll say that. Yesterday when I introduced the idea, we were all confused, right? But now we know what our selector and our calculations are. Are we still confused? That is how we proceed. The gradual process. Before you make like how I understand all these ones. These are all simple selectors. We not move to both the pseudo elements, pseudo class, and whatever. We are not discussing those ones in this class. These are the basic ones you should be using. Say something like that. Did he ask or say? Yes. Yes. H1 and paragraph are not okay. Only BID that will be. Only BID in that class. Just like saying girls.jss1. Only the girls in JSS1. If I say boys.jss1, only the boys in JSS1. But if I say JSS1, it is both boys and what? Girls. As long as you are in that class, you must do what? Stand up. That is how it works. So it's like P dot stand up simply means any element answering P and you are in this class should do what? Stand up. So if your name is DIV, you are not standing up. If your name is H1, you are not standing up. Only those that are P do what? Stand up. You know in the same class. Ask your question.
Okay, sorry. Ebe ji tinye ya ebe ebe stand up na ka mpụta ya na what of all say ewefuzie within H1 tinye ọkwa sonso that
H1 now. Any H1 in that class. Any H1 in that class should stand up. Any element of being mentioned and play the thing in class, which means you are now saying this class is for only what? DIV. This class is for only what? Paragraph. Paragraph, I'm talking to you, all of you should be in this class. So if a paragraph and you're in this class, do what? Stand up. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
You working? Tested it. It's working, right? Yes. Man, they go. I won't be able to do it. So I'm going to tell you. Come on. What name are you going to use? As if in one month. Like this papa said that when I watch ball, like when I ball. Oh, oh no, I can't go outside and I'm not going to feel. Good as well. Oh, then you still go on. Oh, they walk out there while I see if they're not going to get a whole unit inside the building. But I end up so practice it yourself. If I am going to you personally you now, but you're get so do it yourself. Now I'm going to try it yourself. Do it yourself. Do it yourself. DIY. DIY. Do it yourself. What you see is what you get. This is why I say you should buy your own laptop. You will laptop about practice. You don't know that. Before you will laptop when it's not charging at home yesterday. You will rather than what you are doing. But don't worry, it will come to practice. Just understand. Listen, understand, and what? Listen, understand, and remember. Here again, when you listen, understand what I just said. Then if you understand, always know what I just said. Because that's what you're going to apply in your practice. But if you want to practice and you remember, you will be able to practice, you have to know what I call for practicing. So listen, understand, remember, and what? Practice. And consistent practice makes what? Perfect. Consistent practice makes what? Perfect. Any question? So far, no question, right? Should we proceed or should we attend this one first?
Sir.
Let me call the section. Once you understand this simple one, this simple selector, what can we call it? What we are supposed to manipulate this simple selector? Learn how to manipulate this simple selector to work. You know, you can even put one element in two classes. And you can make one element to obey two class instructions. In our class, in our SS3, I know how I see it. In our SS3, so you work with in our SS3, we give you a pay. You work with in the ICT class, we give you a pay. How many classes are you doing? 2. You can even be in 3 classes, eh? In our class, in that case now, your attribute will be what? If on this class, you obey the 2, I'll just do like this. Class equals to stand up. Okay? I'll give space. Sit down. It will obey both stand up and sit as long as there is. Try to say that this is anything, but I don't want to expand it to this step so that you don't get confused. Let's do one after the other. Yes, one person can be in 2 classes now. You can be in just 1 and also be in just 2. Even though that is not the way it's structure. Okay, let me use that. You can be in just 1 and also be in the ICT mode, which is another class. So if I make a rule in this class, you will obey. If there is a rule in your class, you should do what? Obey. And move on to conflict. And conflict. When I say everybody in ICT or real rule, and everybody and you're in JS1, and your teacher in JS1 say those in JSS1, we are ready. Yeah? Which one will you now obey? The class, if you obey the first one first, before you obey the second one here. So it goes to the cover. But I think the last function, you should obey that because this is the last instruction. So this is the last word, all that. Let me find out to get there. children just a renovation. Wow. I did it last week. The walk was last week. I feel this week. And she not feeling it. Unless I had it, unless I have my class, I have to have that Joe flash. I'm very rich, not very skilled, because I just want to sacrifice that to you.